Today on Locked On Canadiens, it is time for Lane Hutson.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 1050. And I just realized our brand new intro coincides with Lane Hutson's arrival, almost like it's a Marvel movie, as Scott pointed out. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. My name is Laura Saab, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Scott Matla of Habs Eyes on the Prize. Scott, it is time for Lane Hutson, but first we have to talk about that Ottawa Senators game, unfortunately.
See, I don't want to because I want to talk about the Bone Zone instead, but I guess we'll talk about what was the most prototypical Habs Senators game ever, short of somebody getting egregiously injured.
Yes, there were no beheadings.
Yeah, well, the diaper rat eater, Brady Tkachuk tried when he whacked Nick Suzuki in the back of the head. I've seen games where officials are one-sided, and then I saw this game, which was terrible, but also the Habs power play wouldn't have done anything anyways. If you didn't watch it, the Habs lost 5-4 in a shootout to the Ottawa Senators. They had a 4-3 lead going into the final 64 seconds of the game and allowed a game-tying goal off a defenseman deflection with almost no time left. It is 9 straight losses to the Ottawa Senators, and I, for the life of me, out of every team the Canadiens cannot beat, I do not understand why the Ottawa Senators are the ones that are making our lives so hellish all the time.
I feel like it's a boogeyman thing where it's gotten to a point where they're in the Montreal Canadiens' heads. And that's kind of unfortunate because Ottawa's not exactly a juggernaut team. I do think, I don't know, I have some questions about the goaltending in that game in particular. I know we've been consistent with the praise lately. I'm not sure I loved it. Obviously, a game in which Nick Suzuki is relatively quiet is a game in which the rest of the team is probably a little bit quiet, but I did feel like Caufield stepped up, and we are going to talk a little bit more about that in our 3-up segment. I feel like he's kind of regaining his composure and his confidence this late in the season, in the home stretch of the season, and I'm feeling good about him. Mike Matheson also making noise as well. But I think at the end of the day, the Canadiens didn't have the poise to recover from that extremely strange officiating.
Yeah, this is a game that I look at where Mike Matheson, shorthanded goal, again, going almost coast to coast to score it. Great. Alex Newhook and Yoel Armia get a combined for a goal at the end of the game. Caufield scores 2 in 2 very different ways, still closing in on a potential 30-goal season, which is incredible. Nick Suzuki was oddly quiet because the Senators went out of their way to just continually, I don't want to say rough him up because that's not maybe true, but just do everything to take him out of the play, legally or not. And it worked in that when Nick Suzuki gets angry too in these games, he doesn't throw checks or, give you an extra little cross check. He goes out there and puts up points. And he almost got the incredible overtime winner where he took a stretch pass from Cole Caufield out of the defensive zone, just couldn't tuck it around the pad. Had he scored that, it would have been incredible. Even if you're upset that the Habs won this game because of the lottery and whatnot, him scoring that goal off that Caufield feed would have been incredible. And I'm saying that a lot. I don't have another word for that. Amazing, stupendous, whatever. But everything in this game comes from defensive breakdowns around the net, in that you allow Brady Tkachuk to just have free reign in front of the net. Guys are not reading or getting caught out of position, and he's just standing there. He's going to go to that spot. Brady Tkachuk isn't going to circle up into the slot, into the faceoff dots. He's going to stand in the front of the net and Brendan Gallagher some pucks in if you leave him there alone. And that's what he did. Put somebody on him to remove him in front of the net there. Don't leave their best player unattended in front of the net there. Everything in this game is a microcosm of things that the Canadiens need to work on this offseason. 3 Senators power play goals. Their 4th came on a extra net attacker, which power play merchanting, not great. The Habs couldn't stay out of the box, and I don't think they played a game that was egregious in one way or the other, but when you can't stay out of the box and they keep scoring on you because you can't defend whoever in front of the net, we have a problem. And the penalty kill is either locked in and it's great, or they are giving up a goal with relative ease. There's no in between for this team here. I thought Caden Primo was great, but it's another loss, and this is the microcosm of all the things to improve on. Work on the power play, get healthy for one thing too, and maybe next year is the year that they finally win some of these.
And that's exactly it. It's honestly, like, I feel like the penalty kill has made so many strides forward. But this game kind of pointed out how it's not as consistent as we would like. Like, it has been much better in I would say, the last third of the season, but this game kind of highlighted how you have to be consistent with it. And I can't really fault them that much because their defensive, everything is kind of in disarray right now, whether you're talking about identity, whether you're talking about talent, whether you're talking about injuries. Like, you're not in your optimal position defensively right now, so I don't want to be too harsh with them. But I do think that the Ottawa Senators are a team that you should have been able to keep out of the box. Keep off the score sheet. And that, to me, is the thing. Like, it's not like they were playing against the Colorado Avalanche or like even the Toronto Maple Leafs with all that firepower. It was the Ottawa Senators. Like, you need to be better than that.
And it's a weird part is that they held Colorado to 1 goal, like a good, very good Colorado team. They held them to 1 goal and won that game, but bleed five goals is not accurate because the shootout winner counts as a winner. But anyways, is that you allowed 4 goals, 3 of which were power play goals, to a team that's barely above you in the standings right now. Like, I'm looking at the standings, and Ottawa has 76 points. Montreal has 74. It's not like this is a team that is so markedly different from the Canadiens, that they are right there with you in the trash heap to end this season there. They are again picking in the top 10, despite being done with. They score a lot. We know that. The Senators thing is that they've never been able to stop bleeding chances against. We saw that with the Canadiens. It's tightening up all the little things, because for whatever reason in these games, officiating goes out the window, and the Canadiens' penalty kill against Ottawa is just never lined up the way that it needs to.
And they take more, it feels like they take more unnecessary penalties against Ottawa.
Because they always catch the second person. I think the best example of this was Josh Anderson. Very clearly, I think it was Ridley Gregg comes across straight over his face, like gets him with a high stick. Like, it's not like it was subtle, because he went straight up and over. As they come back towards the blue line, Anderson kind of gives him a shoulder, and they ding Anderson for the interference, but not the egregious penalty they missed the first time. And that's the thing, is it's a composure. At the end of the day, it is a composure thing. And Ottawa's just always had that ability to just be like, we're going to make this harder for you. Brady Tkachuk does what Brady Tkachuk does. There are other Senators who do what they do. And because it's a rivalry game, the emotions are already high. The good news is, I guess, good news overall with this, there were no fights in last night's game, which is kind of surprising. Michael Pezzetta has been kind of ornery lately, going with a lot of people that maybe he shouldn't in some of these situations, but I'm surprised he didn't get into it. Obviously, no Arbor Jack Eye, which maybe helped keep the temperature down a little bit. But in a game like this, if you're someone like Josh Anderson and you're watching Nick Suzuki kind of get bullied around out there a little bit, you're not scoring goals, so maybe do something else that might help with that. I'm grateful that we're seeing the back of the Ottawa Senators at the NHL level anyways, until next preseason or rookie camp or whatever it is, because
it's going to be another preseason where it's like 20 games against the Senators.
I don't know why they do so many games against the Leafs and Senators, and the only thing that happens is everybody gets angry online.
And injured.
Really, really angry online.
And injured.
And injured.
And injured. In the meantime, we're going to turn our attention away from the Ottawa Senators and talk about something decidedly more delightful. Let's talk about Lane Hutson being a Montreal Canadien. Up next. First, this episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, like superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Scott, it is time for Lane Hutson. We talked about this on our last episode, and sure enough, immediately after it dropped, maybe a couple of hours later, Lane Hutson became a Montreal Canadien.
Yeah, he got eliminated on Thursday the 11th, and then it just kind of became, hey, Lane Hutson contract when? Lane Hutson contract when? And then I want to say it was around 12:30 in the afternoon on or 1 p.m. sometime around there. I was up in Lewiston for work when the news broke, which, happy for me among all people and Habs fans everywhere. Lane Hutson has signed his 3-year entry-level contract. Will meet the team in Detroit on Monday. So this segment, we realized we thought they were playing Tuesday, Wednesday, not Monday, Tuesday this week. So the last two Habs games of the season, Lane Hutson and Cole Caufield and everyone else control the fate of the Detroit Red Wings, which I think is super neat, but it's done. It's over with. There's not any, is Lane Hutson going to sign or is he not going to sign? There was no panic with this signing like there used to be. Like, are they going to sign Jake Evans? Are they going to get Jordan Harris signed, etc.? And they went out and just did it. Quiet, no real fuss that we knew it would get done, where it used to be, well, we can't make people sign, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Kent Hughes gets his college free agent signed, and Lane Hutson is right there.
It
The big part.
feels
No, go ahead.
it feels very uncomplicated nowadays where like a guy is just going to sign, right? Like the will he won't he is not part of it now. It's will the Canadians bring them over from Europe? Will the person, how soon will the person get to Montreal? The question about whether or not the person wants to be part of the organization doesn't really seem to be a factor nowadays. And that to me, it's so refreshing how uncomplicated that is.
Yeah, it is so nice to not be worrying about all of this going on. And the best part is that Monday, when he arrives in Detroit, he will join the team there. I'm going to be stunned if he's not in the lineup there, just because I think he has a bunch of his former BU teammates who are going to also be at that game watching his debut, seeing as Hudson's from Michigan originally. So I imagine also his brother may be there. Matthew Caron, the goaltender from Boston University, will be there. And I assume potentially a few other players, including potential first overall pick, Macklin Celebrini, are all going to be there. And Martin St. Louis is not Mike Babcock, is not whomever. There's no way that I don't think Hutson doesn't play. It at this point, it doesn't matter about the result. It's about getting number 48 too, which push that to the side for a minute in the lineup to play there. You can scratch a Jonathan Kovacevic for that. You can put Harrison Struble together, give David Savard, Lane Hutson to kind of be his mentor a little bit, keep Matheson and Barron together. And it's probably an offensive net positive. Defensively, that's why David Savard is there, to be the defensive stalwart a little bit. But it's one of those things that I don't care. The season is a loss anyways. It's like when Ryan Poehling came in and scored a hat trick in his debut. Sure, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it's always good to end the season on a high note for that. And we've been waiting for Lane Hutson now, basically since the day he was drafted and started dominating at Boston University. It was how long, and now here we are. I potentially, since Caufield, the most excited I've been for a prospect debut. I love Slavkovsky to death, but Lane Hutson had that sizzle almost immediately that Slavkovsky generated this year. I can't wait to watch him put on again number 48 and step
Yeah,
out
can
on
we
the ice
talk
there.
about that? Like, there's what is that about?
I don't know, like, because here's the thing is number 20 that he wore at BU is being worn by Uri Slavkovsky right now. Some of the other numbers that I believe he wore for like World Juniors and other stuff are retired by the Canadiens. I'm just trying to look this up on Elite Prospects right now to see what else he wore elsewhere, because I think he wore things like 8 and 13 and everything else. Like,
Which you can't have on the Montreal Canadiens, unfortunately.
no, unfortunately, you cannot. So, okay, so the U.S. under 20 roster here. Thank you. Roster numbers. Yeah, he wore. No, he wore number 20 for the under 20s as well. He wore number 20 at Boston, so he can't wear that. Let me just go back to his. There it is, the USNTDP team. If it will load. I know this is fascinating. This is
Yeah, I
fascinating
know
listening
people
for
are listening
everybody.
to
I'm
our
sorry.
process.
Uh,
I shouldn't have asked because it was kind of weird, but there's a bit of discussion about it. It just seems like such a strange number for a kid like Lane Hutson to have.
oh my
Uh,
God.
what?
I'm looking at the previous wearers of number 48 in Montreal.
Go on.
Daniel Briere in 2014, which we knew that. We know how all of that went through no fault of his own. Thank you, Michel Therrien. JT Wyman in 2010. Miloslav Gelin in 1999 to 2000. Francois Grolu
Glue?
from 96 to 98. And then for 6 years, former Montreal Canadiens assistant coach Jean-Jacques Daigneault wore number 48. Lane Hutson will be the next person in that glorious line. So like you can't wear 20, can't wear 23. 23 is retired, and there's almost no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to say most of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 9 are all retired. No one on the team. Chris Weidman technically is number 6 right now. Mike Matheson is wearing number 8. It's all very weird. I would have liked it if he wore 44, just because that is one of my favorite numbers. I loved Roman Hamrlik as a Montreal Canadian. We'll see what he actually ends up wearing next year, but
It's
if
really
you're
funny.
if you're gonna buy a jersey and you don't want to buy Fanatics, I would buy one now. And here's the thing: is it becomes a collector's item, just like my Caufield Rocket jersey is.
It is his hometown team, if I'm not mistaken, Detroit.
Yes,
Well,
because
he's
he
from
is
Michigan.
from, I believe he's from Farmington Hills, Michigan.
Yes.
I will definitely confirm that. He's from Holland, Michigan,
Right.
according to Elite Prospects. So,
So, what do we expect in this game, right? The Detroit Red Wings have not completely been eliminated from playoff contention.
no, basically the Canadians hold their fate in their hands here. The Islanders, I believe, clinched a playoff spot, or no, the Islanders are sitting with 90 points. Washington with their minus 40 goal differential of 87. Detroit has 87. Philadelphia has 87 points, but only one more game to play. Pittsburgh has 86. So Pittsburgh can max out at 90 points. The Flyers can max out at 89. Detroit at 91. Washington at 91. And the Islanders at 94. Basically, the Canadians with a win eliminate Detroit from can more or less eliminate Detroit from playoff contention if the Capitals also win. Or no, that will. If the Capitals win and Detroit loses, anyways. But they hold all of that in their hands there. And I realize as we're talking about prospect signings, by the time you hear this, we will probably have an answer already, unfortunately. But Elliot Friedman and several others confirmed that Kent Hughes has offered Lue Tuch an entry-level contract, but he is weighing up his decisions right now. As of Saturday Night and Hockey Night in Canada, we were expecting a decision on Sunday from Lue Tuch.
We are recording this on Sunday morning, just so you know. If you
Yeah, if
can't
he
tell
signs, we
from my just
will.
woken up face.
Yeah, if he does sign, we will get it into the next episode. We promise on that. But we wanted to get a bunch of this stuff out before it got too late on Sunday for other things. But
Mhm.
there's a very good chance. I would imagine Lue Tuch will sign that if Kent Hughes immediately offered him a contract. It wasn't up in the air, so we will. We'll have more of that going into Monday night's episode after the Red Wings game.
Absolutely. So, it is Monday, and we're back to our regular schedule of 3 up, 3 down, which is coming up next. But first, this episode is brought to you by Sleeper. We are now at the end of the season, and you know what? The Canadiens did exactly what we thought they were going to do. But regardless of where we ended up in the standings, I want to remind everybody that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And honestly, there's so many good things about the app. You can play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, college football, anything that's in season, you can absolutely play it. And it's so easy. You can chat with other fans and your entries can be made in under a minute. And all you have to do is pick a couple players and record whether they will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. And to win 100 times your cash on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canadiens fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL, LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. It's Monday, or it is the Monday episode. We are recording it on Sunday morning, and it is time for our 3 up and 3 down. Scott, who did you want to put in your down? Let's get that out of the way as soon as possible so we can talk about good things.
So the Rocket have absolutely befuddled me for the last week now. Last weekend, win 7-4 on Sunday. Big win, or on Saturday. Big win, keeps their playoff hopes alive. Follow it up by giving up 6 goals to a depleted Cleveland team, putting their playoff hopes in doubt. Come back and win 5-1 against that same Cleveland team on Saturday night. They are down to their final 2 games of the year. Belleville plays Wednesday, and that with a loss basically puts the Rocket and Senators on an almost even playing field, but the Rocket have to win out to make the playoffs since their last 2 games are against the Sens. And the biggest thing is that a win or two in some of these games where they just couldn't hold on to like multiple goal leads changes everything. And this team would be in the playoffs easily. They're not fully on my down list, but they are so frustrating sometimes that I don't fully get it. We'll find out where we're at. I'll have a full like end of season rundown on everything for this channel here when Laura is traveling, or depending on if they make the playoffs or not afterwards. We'll do the full we'll do the not postpartum, Jesus. We'll do the full autopsy on the season after.
Postmortem.
Yeah. Jesus.
It's
You can
early.
tell, yeah. But they're on my down list, but like in that weird gray area. Because I'm finding not a lot of things to actually be mad about with this Canadiens team right now. Like I don't have the energy for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're just going to quickly flip over to our pluses, our 3 up. Cole Caufield followed up a great week with another great week, I think. And has, kind of quieted some of the criticisms of him. As Scott pointed out, he was developing other parts of his game. He was being more heavily defended against throughout the season. He seems to have found his way, which is great. And Mike Matheson does he continue to surprise at this point? Like, has he, I don't know what it is. He's just thriving.
Well, if you ask someone like Jay Fresh, who said he'd regress to being a 35-point defenseman this season, This is unexpected. I think Mike Matheson was a guy that has always kind of had this potential with his skating ability, but I look at some of the teams that he played on. In Pittsburgh, it just wasn't a fit because that team as a whole runs through Sidney Crosby. The fact that Matheson wasn't able to still, and they had Chris Letang as their power play quarterback. Mike Matheson is power play quarterback number one for the Canadiens here, and that allows him to be involved a lot more with the big guns on the ice. Matheson's not always playing behind Suzuki's line, but when they're on the power play or when they need goals, that grouping is out there and they can move the puck really well. He's having an incredible season that I truly didn't actually expect this out of him. When they made that trade for Mike Matheson, my initial kind of thought was, I don't know, I don't really love this all that much. And then all he's done is just be incredible for the Canadiens. And his last year in Pittsburgh, 11 goals, 20 assists, 31 points, respectable. Then 8-26 in 48 games last year for Montreal is pretty good on a bad team. And then this year, 11 goals, 51 assists, 62 points in 80 games. He's one of the highest scoring defensemen in the league. It's just that guys like Quinn Hughes are having such an insane season. It almost kind of gets swept aside. But I'm looking at all of his NHL seasons here: 7 goals, 10 goals, 8 goals, 8 goals, 5 goals, 11 goals, 8 goals, 11 goals with games to play. Mike Matheson's is becoming an actually, I think, underrated defenseman in the NHL. When the team is healthy next year and some of these guys like Hutson, like Goulet are back, when Jack Eye is back, potentially, and Adam Engstrom and stuff sliding in the lineup that can take some of these other minutes, I think we're going to see an even better Matheson that is not playing, 30 minutes a night. That's obviously, hyperbolized a little bit, but I think we can see even more from him coming. Just his skating and everything gives him such incredible ability to do absolutely amazing things.
I absolutely agree. So other than Cole Caufield and Mike Matheson, was there anyone else you wanted to shout out this week?
Oh, I did want to shout out Caufield that even in a down season, he is trending potentially to get 30 goals. He always seems to score against Detroit too. I'm looking at Caufield in his down season has shrunk down his plus minus to -4. And I know it's not an actual definitive stat, but people love to point at this for things. 27 goals, 37 assists. There's a chance he could hit 30 goals or 40 assists by the end of this week. I consider that a really big win. Obviously, Nick Suzuki's been great, if not still a little quiet, but that's the way he does that. He'd need 2 3-point games to hit 82 points on the season. I don't think that's going to happen, but 45 assists or 35 goals is, within reach. And then you have Juraj Slafkovsky, needs a goal and an assist to hit 20 goals, 30 assists on the season, 50 points. Considering everything that's happened, that's pretty amazing. And I never thought I would actually make this shout out. Justin Barron at the NHL level now is a completely different player, and I don't understand it. I've never been so confused by a player in that at the AHL level, after they got sent down, lost, disinterested, not a factor, got called back up, and I'm watching him activate and make high danger passes to high danger areas and doing the things that you want to see from an offensive defenseman. And I just can't think to myself is, where was this all the time? If you played like this all the time, they wouldn't have sent you down in the first place. It's one of those weird things. And then just shout out to Caden Primo. Honestly, I know that his record he's going to have a losing record, but he's an NHL goalie. And I think that's one of the wildest things, because I never would have predicted that at the beginning of this season. That Jake Allen trade paid off, if only not counting the pick, that it means we have Caden Primo now, who looks to be an established, at least NHL backup goaltender.
Yes, and on that positive note, we will end the show. We'll obviously have recap of the Detroit games. We'll preview the Laval Rocket games that are so crucial this week, and we'll have so much more, including a special guest this week. So make sure you are subscribed to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Like I said, we're free and available everywhere. You can always get in touch with us. You can email us at lockedoncanadians@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at LO_Canadians. You can find us individually all over social media at Scott Matla Allen at The Active Stick. You can also leave comments in the YouTube. If you want us to bring it up on our Friday mailbag, please put MBQ or a mailbag question at the beginning. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow.